Okay, we fell behind once again. Hopefully this is going to work. Hopefully you can hear me. I know this is a little bit not ideal, but let's try this out. Okay, so we're on the plane, flying back home. We're on Nun Tes Base. I'm not using our scroll because I can't find my scroll. That's what happens when you pack quickly. So here we go. We are on like one line down on 59B, so it's probably 59B1. Again, I hope you can hear me. So Man Tana Rishus Rabbim, who is the Tana who says they're able to make an Eruv in Rishus Rabbim, an Eruv that is consisting of just like a Lefi or a Korah. If you recall, the Mishnah told us that you have a public domain that's going to be transformed from a public domain into a shareable place with just a Lefi or a Korah. So Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Yehuda, the author of this is Rabbi Yehuda. The time he was taught in the Brisa. Yasser al Kain Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda taught more than this. Mishayesh lo shnei batim b'shnei tzidei Rishus Rabbim. A person has two houses on two sides of Rishus Rabbim, and he wants to be able to pass things between his two houses. Osa lechi mikan v'lechi mikan. You make a lechi on either side. Korah mikan, or a Korah on either side. And then the person's allowed to carry in between. But you see, there is an individual, i.e. Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that when a person wants to carry in Rishus Rabbim, you are able to do so with just a lechi or a Korah. Omrlo, the Chacham said to him in this brisa, Ein ma'arv in Rishus Rabbim kach. You are not able to make an Eruv in Rishus Rabbim in this fashion. Okay, Amar Mar. The brisa, the Mishnah told us, that you are not able to make this Eruv. If you want to make the Eruv, you can't do it halfway. Okay, so basically, you're not allowed to make an Eruv for half the city. Amra Papa comes and qualifies that and says, Amru Ella Arka. This is only true for the length of the Rachma Ma'arvin. When it comes to the width, you are able to make a. Sorry for my face being here. I just don't want to disturb all of other people here who are trying to watch movies or sleep. Okay, this is a little bit too close. Okay, so the Rachma Ma'arvin, but if it's the width, you are able to make an Eruv. So what that means is as follows. You have, imagine the city is a rectangle, so you're able to split the city down the middle, but you can't split the city, if the city is, here's your rectangle, okay, so you're able to go ahead and split it this way, you can't split it this way. The reason for that is because when you split it this way, when you split the rectangle, so again, it's a rectangle this way, you split it down this way, then what that means is that each person, each house has their own Rishus Rabbim. If you split the city, because they're all able to access their own Rishus Rabbim, if you split the city this way, then a person's going to have a Rishus Rabbim that's going to be shared, and that's not going to be allowed. Okay, and basically they're going to be sharing Rishus Rabbim, and you can't have them sharing Rishus Rabbim because they're each going to be, if you have an Eruv for half the city and the other half of the city is not part of that same Eruv, they're sharing a space, and you can't make an Eruv in a situation where people are sharing a space and they're not all part of one group. So over here again, if you're splitting the city this way, then they're going to be sharing space, and that is going to be shared space which is not connected to an Eruv, which is therefore invalid. So the Gemara asks, Kiman, who is this Mishnah going like? Who is this statement of Rabbi going like? To look Rabbi Kiva, not like Rabbi Kiva. Do you Rabbi Kiva? Because Rabbi Kiva said, Amar Regal Hamuteres B'Mkoma Usteres Afilu Shelo B'Mkoma. Rabbi Kiva said as follows: you have a case where you have two chatzeros, two courtyards, one leading into the next. Okay, and what happens over here is that the people in the outer, they don't make an Eruv together, they make separate Eruvin. What happens is that the people in the inside courtyard are actually not able to do anything because they're not able to carry anything, because the people in the inside courtyard, when they start carrying, since they have access to the inside courtyard, so the one in the inner courtyard, and they're not part of one Eruv, they therefore make the carrying in that space forbidden, and that is okay. That's the case Rabbi Kiva and the Chacham talk about. Okay, do you want pasta for dinner, anyone? Okay, just kidding. Sorry, they're delivering dinner in the background. So again, you have two courtyards. You have one in the background, one in the back, and the one in the back, the only way they get to the public domain is having access through the inner one. And so Rabbi Kiva says that if the inner people, they don't make an Eruv together, then the people in the outer one are going to not be able to carry, because the people in the inner one have to go through the outer one, and they're not part of an Eruv, and therefore, because they're not part of an Eruv, therefore they're not part of a combined connection through an Eruv, they're therefore going to be prohibited. So we want to say that our Mishnah over here is not like Rabbi Kiva, because Ha'amar Regel Hamuteres oseres b'mkoma, oseres afilu shelo b'mkoma. That feet, literally feet, but when it means passage that is permitted in its place, forbids in another place. That was the case that Rekiva speaking about. Again, the people in the inner courtyard forbid the people from the outer courtyard from carrying it all. And that's similar to our case, because in our case you have the people on one side of the town who are going to be traveling into the other side of the town, and yet the Tana of our Mishnah says it's no problem. They do not. You're able to make an ear, you're able to split the town down the middle, again going down this way. So the Gemara says, "Afilu tamer Rabbi Kiva," even if it's Rabbi Kiva, even you can say our Mishnah goes like Rabbi Kiva. Ad kam l'kam Rabbi Kiva Hasan ela b'shtei chatzeros olefnim mizu. The only case Rekiva said that the outer people are forbidden is the people in the outer courtyard are forbidden is because the only way the people in the inner courtyard are able to get out is through that outer courtyard, and therefore again they're connected, and the people in the outer courtyard are walking through, and there's no combined connection, and therefore they're going to prohibit the people on the inner courtyard from. The people in the people in the inner courtyard are going to prohibit the people in the outer courtyard from carrying. In this case, you have a city, okay, a bunch of houses, and it's split down the middle. So the people on this side, these houses over here, they could go out to the Rosh Hashanah over here. The people in these houses, they can go out to the Rosh Hashanah over here. They don't pass through one another, and therefore our Mishnah could even go like Rabbi Kiva. We have another version. We have a new version. According to this version, it's the Rav Papa saying that it's not only if the city is divided by length that it's not going to work, but even if the city is divided according to width, you're not allowed to establish the Eruv. In other words, no matter how you slice the city, whether you slice it this way or that way, it's not going to work. Kilan, and then Mishnah, and then the Gemara continues and says, "Who is this like Rabbi Kiva? This seems to go like Rabbi Kiva." And the Gemara says, "No, afilu tamer Rabbanan. This could even go like the Rabbanan. Why? Because Ad kam l'kam Rabban Hasan the Rabbanan who said that the people in the inner courtyard are able to carry through the outer courtyard and not prohibits the people in the outer courtyard from carrying is because it's two courtyards. Because the people in the outer courtyard are able to kind of block the people from the inner courtyard from using their courtyard. They could say, listen guys, you want to walk through our courtyard, no problem, but don't carry in our courtyard, because by you carrying in our courtyard, you prohibit us from making any usage, from carrying it, from doing anything, and therefore they can say, listen, you can walk through, but you can't carry anything, and that's why the Rabbanan say that the people in the inner courtyard don't cause the people in the outer courtyard to be unable to carry. But in our case, you can't get around Rosh Hashanah. In other words, there's one public domain, and everyone's going to be passing through it, and therefore over here, maybe even the Rabbanan would agree. Okay, says the Gemara further. Amar Bar, we quote from above. Kula, the Mishnah said, Mavoi b'fnei atzmo. It said in the Brisa that you either with the city, you're either going to establish a Eruv in the entire city, or each mavoi on its own. Ask the Gemara, why is it that the Brisa said you can't split the city in half to Asri Adadi? Because by splitting it in half, then they're going to prohibit it one upon the other. So also when you do it by one mavoi at a time, one alleyway at a time, it's partial. Only part of the city is given an Eruv, and therefore they should cause to be prohibited one upon the other, just like when you split the city down the middle. So Gemara says, you make a back door. In other words, the people in the mavoi, they make a back door, and what that does, that allows them to exit not by going through the shusharabim. Okay, in the mavoi case, they're able to exit through a door that they don't want to be connected to the other alleyways. They basically make a partition. Well, it's like the way the Ritva understands, like a back door, basically demonstrating they don't want to be part of the other alleyways, and in doing so, they are not. That's why it's going to be permitted. Whereas in the case of just splitting the city down the middle, you don't have those partitions or special exits, and therefore there is no way to distinguish, and therefore the city is ultimately connected. Even though, and you have an Eruv only part of it, you're going to cause prohibition on one part of the Eruv, one part of the city to the other. He says similarly, you have a case where you have a mavoi. You have, let's say, one alleyway, and you have one. Normally when you have one mavoi, we said that everyone has to be part of one one Eruv. So let's have a case where one of them does not participate in the Eruv, but he also makes a back door for himself to leave and not have to go through the main thoroughfare. So in doing so, he demonstrates he wants to have nothing to do with them, and therefore he doesn't cause the rest of the Eruv to be undone. Okay. Fine. Says the Gemara further. We have a story. So that's a quote from the Mishnah. Rabbi Zera Rav Zera made an Eruv in the city of Achia, and he didn't leave any un-Eruved area over. Remember, we said in order to make it a good Eruv, you have to leave a part of the city un-Eruved. Abai says, why do you do this? Amrlei said, the old people, the elders of the city told me that Rav Chia bar Asi made an Eruv in the whole city. I said to myself, it must be that it was a private city that was made into a I'm with you. Okay, it's made into a public city, and remember we said earlier that if it was a private city that's made into a public city, then you are you don't need to you're allowed to make an Eruv for the entire city. You don't have to separate a part of it out. Amrlei, Abai says to him, the elders explained to me, you missed part of the story. There was a garbage on one side of the street. Now the garbage is there. There are two doors. There's a door on one side of the city, and the other side of the city, which used to have a garbage, which blocked it, which was the reason that they treated it like a private domain and not like a public domain, and that garbage is no longer there. Sorry, we got interrupted. Okay, so Amrlei, Abai says to him, the elders told me the whole story. There was a garbage dump on one side of the city. Now the garbage is gone. It's two doors that are open. Amrlei Lavadatai said, whoops, I didn't know that. I love this Masechta. I'm pretty sure, I need to ask someone who knows this kind of stuff, but pretty sure that this Masechta has the most times that you have the rabbis saying, whoops, that I didn't know, I made a mistake. And I think, we spoke about this earlier, the whole idea of Masechtas Eruvin is really this Masechta which speaks about rabbinic law, and it's incredibly humbling to have these rabbis constantly saying, I didn't realize that I made a mistake. Okay, let's go further. By Minei Rav Ami Bar Ada Harpana Me Rabba. So Rav Ami Bar Ada from Harpanya asked the following question from Rabba. Sul Mikan Pesach Mikan. Let's you have a ladder on one side and a door on the other side. Mahu what's the halacha? Amalei Hakim Rav Sulam Torah Pesach Alav. A ladder. Thanks. A ladder. Hold on. Here. Not a good idea. Okay, a ladder is like a door. Now, if it means it's a door, that means if there's a door on one side of the city and a ladder on the other side of the city, and a ladder going up, then that would mean that you now have a door on both sides of the city. Rav Nachman looks at Sisule. Rav Nachman says, don't listen to him. This is what Rav Abda Amarav said. Sulam Torah Pesach Alav. A ladder is like a door, but Torah's Mechitza Alav, and it's like a wall. In other words, it could be like both. Torah's Mechitza Kida Amran. Sometimes it could be a door, a wall, like in the following case where you have a ladder on one side and you're going to have a door on the other side. In that case, we go lenient and we treat the ladder like it's an actual wall. So therefore, it's not open on both sides. Torah's Pesach Alav, it's like a door in the following case. So let's say you have two courtyards. Ratzu Echad Ma'arev, Ratzu Shnei Ma'arev. And if they want, they can make one Eruv, meaning that even though there's a ladder, which we sometimes treat like a wall, which would mean that there's a space between them and that there's a division between them, if you want, you could treat it like it's a door, and therefore treat it like one space, and therefore you could make an Eruv. Ask Let's you have residents of the ground floor of a courtyard and residents of a balcony. So you have a ground floor, and then you have a balcony up above, and they forgot to make an Eruv. If they have a partition of 4 tvachim, then enoseres v'lav. But if they don't, then it's going to be prohibited. So what the Gemara is basically saying over here is that unless there's like a back alleyway that the people from the top are able to go out, if not, we treat them as one place. So you see in that case that it's going to cause a prohibition, we treat it as a stringency. That ladder is treated as something which actually is a doorway between them as a stringency. And Rav Nachman just told us that it can be a leniency as well. So Gemara says, we're dealing in the case where the balcony is not 10 tvachim high from the ground, and therefore in that case it's really all one. We more or less treat it as level. Ask the Gemara, if it's not 10 high, so let's say you have one completely level place, and you make a back exit for one place within the same chaser. It's all level. I have it. What does that do? So Gemara says no. It's somewhat separate, but not completely separate. It's not 10 tvachim high, so it's not a completely separate domain, but rather bim ubepes ad eser amos. It's the elevated area is walled in, but there's a 10 amma doorway, okay, or 10 ammers or smaller, and therefore it's kind of partitioned off, kind of not. And once you make that back way, you make that exit, that clear exit that's not that taking you out of the chaser, it's the luki stalik. You're showing that you are no longer connected to the courtyard, and that is why it's going to work. So again, it's partially connected, partially not connected, but in general, when you have a ladder could be seen as a doorway, or it could be seen as a wall. Okay, we'll pick up the next Amud, Samach Amud Aleph, shortly.